Hey, Husker fans, welcome to another episode of the Husker Big Red podcast with Chris Peterson and Danny Gillette. As always, go Big Red.
Good morning, Husker fans, and welcome back to the Husker Big Red podcast. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me as always is Danny Gillette, and we're back on this Monday morning, and we're going to be talking about the Nebraska football spring game. We'll have plenty of takeaways there. We'll be talking about Dylan Raiola, some recruiting tidbits from over the weekend. Before we get into that, though, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you guys hit the like button. Get into the comments section. All that really helps us out, helps other people find our Cornhusker content. Also, make sure you're checking out HuskerBigRed.com as well. So, Danny, how you doing this morning, man? The draft's over. Spring game's done. How you doing?
I need a rest, and weekends are usually for rest, but not this weekend. This weekend was action-packed, and between the draft and the spring game, I am tired, but it's a good tired, and it's an excited tired too, as I saw a lot of things on Saturday that made me really hopeful for the future. And let me just say before we get into it was a who's who of who was at the game on Saturday. I saw photos with Irving Fryer, Coach Osborne, Mike Grozier, Cam Taylor-Britt, Lamar Jackson, I think, was there. So a lot of people came out and supported the current Huskers roster, which was great to see. I loved seeing all the alumni come back to Lincoln and Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, it was a who's who of Nebraska football players, so that was great, and the spring game was great. I mean, I don't think everybody's going to be talking about Dylan Raiola, and for good reason. I mean, he was spectacular. It was one of the best performances I've ever seen from a Nebraska quarterback, just talent-wise. I mean, talent-wise, throwing the football. I know we had, Zach Taylor, but Zach Taylor could never do what Dylan Raiola could do. I mean, there's just, he was a good system quarterback. He made a lot of productive plays, and there's a reason he's a great coach in the NFL, because he's has a good mind for football, but he never had, an ounce of the talent that Dylan Raiola has in his pinky finger. I mean, it's unbelievable. This kid, just the way he was, not just the throws, but the way he was adjusting protections. I mean, he just was cool as the other side of the pillow. And I have zero doubt he's going to be the starter. I have zero doubt that he's going to be successful here. I have zero doubt that he's going to be a first round pick. I told you once, I think he's going to be the number one pick 3 years from now, because there's no way that DJ Lagaway, I mean, no disrespect to him, I think he's a great player. But there's no way that anybody should be above Dylan Raiola for the top quarterback ranking for this class. That's just preposterous.
Had he not gone to Nebraska, Raiola would have been the top quarterback. But anyway, before I get into that rant, and not only Dylan Raiola, but all of the quarterbacks looked good. I thought Harburg looked good. He had a couple of errant throws, but that was okay. I thought Daniel Kalen, he had an interception, but I thought he looked pretty good, all things considered. And even Jack Wosh, who came in towards the end of the game, I thought he looked good as well. And I think that's a testament to the work that Glenn Thomas has done too, because I noticed Harburg's throwing motion was much improved from last year. So I thought all the quarterbacks looked good. I mean, obviously it's easy to give praise to Raiola, and rightly so. But at the same time, I feel very confident in the entirety of the quarterback room and not just the starter. And that's not something I've been able to say for years.
Yeah, this is as deep a quarterback room as Nebraska's had in a long time, especially with young, talented quarterbacks. Dylan did have the one interception. It probably should have been a catch off the hands of Demetrius Bell. So I mean, besides that, there wasn't a single pass that he threw that was, even risky, in my opinion. But yeah, Daniel Kalen had the interception, but I thought he threw the ball well. I thought Heinrich threw the ball much better than he did last year. And so I think, that is a kudos to Glenn Thomas, who's really done a nice job with this room so far, bringing these guys along. I mean, they don't look like freshmen. And I wrote this on my takeaways or my thoughts on Monday, maybe, or Sunday morning, excuse me. But it wouldn't shock me at all if teams tried to go at Daniel Kalen today and tried to get Daniel Kalen to go into the transfer portal to get him on their team, because he's legit. He's a legitimate quarterback. I mean, it's going to take him a little bit of time to develop and stuff. But yeah, Nebraska got two big-time quarterbacks. I mean, if it wasn't for Dylan Raiola, we'd be talking about the Daniel Kalen, Heinrich Harburg quarterback competition going into the fall, and people would still be pretty excited about that. But Dylan Raiola is just, man, what a performance. I mean, 223 yards. The thing that impressed me the most was that he completed passes to 13 different players. So it's not like he was just singling in on one guy. I mean, he just is throwing. I mean, if you have somebody who can be like that, who can throw the football, to 10 different receivers a game, I mean, that's how do you defend that? And with the talent the Huskers have, like legitimately between tight ends and receivers, I don't know how teams are gonna defend them. And Dante Dowdell, showed why he's been a top 10 running back recruit. I mean, that 49-yard run, that was classic what we've been told about him. One cut runner, boom, one cut, got to the outside, touchdown. So man, he really impressed me too. Not that Emmett Johnson didn't have his moments as well, but I think there's a lot of things to feel good about, after that spring game performance on Saturday.
And hopefully Demetrius Bell and Bly Hill's injuries, hopefully that recovery process goes smoothly. I heard 4 to 6 weeks on Hill, but those were the only 2 injuries from Saturday. Nevertheless, you don't want to see any. So I just hope they heal up quickly, because Hill especially is slated to be a big part of the secondary. Bell, obviously, you want to see him take that next step in his development, but all things considered, I think it was a good spring game, and I just hope those 2 can, heal up and, not suffer any setbacks during the recovery process.
Yeah, I heard they were patella injuries, I think I saw. I'm not sure exactly what. I just know that Rule said they were significant and semi-significant for Bly Hill, semi-significant, he said, for Demetrius Bell. So we'll see what that means. You never want to see, injury like that happen. I would be, heartbroken for those guys, especially Bly Hill, to just to get your chance, because he was at St. Francis last year. So this is his first kind of, he played well, earned himself an opportunity. And so it would be really disappointing to see him lose that. But, that's what happens. I mean, Maverick Noonan had to go through it last year. I mean, he suffered a, injury. I think it was either in fall camp or spring ball. I can't quite remember, but it was one of those same type of deals where he was just,
fall camp, I believe. I think it was August last year.
Yeah. And he was getting talked about a bunch. I mean, he was the guy that, I think would have played last year had he not gotten hurt. So, it's an unfortunate part of the game. I absolutely hate it. I hate seeing guys get hurt. I wish we could turn injuries off like I do sometimes on Madden, because they make me so mad. But, we live in the real world. But overall, it was good that nobody got hurt. And I also I'm going to go back and rewatch it. I also had a busy day Saturday, but I did make it to the end. And I have to say, off my first impressions, I really liked the offensive lineman. I thought that Teddy Prohashka played well. Who impressed me that I watched was Gunnar Gatula. I double-checked the number, made sure I was watching the right guy, because I don't know every offensive lineman's number by heart.
Why not, Chris? You're a former offensive lineman. Don't do him like that.
I know. I mean, I know most of the starters, but just some of the backups, I'm still getting, and I was trying to watch out for Grant Bricks, and then I'm like, oh man, that's Gatula, and he looked really good. Just his footwork, and he looks like a guy that could play. I thought he could have played a little bit last year, and I really feel like if Nebraska needs a third tackle, a swing tackle, which at some point they probably will, I feel like he's in a good spot. But yeah, I mean, there was a few pressures here and there, and I think on the touchdown that Heinrich threw to Fedoni, Rule said that probably would have been a sack, and that happens in spring games. It is a little bit easier to throw when you're not going to get absolutely crushed. So I mean, that makes it a little easier to stand in the pocket. But I mean, that is what it is.
That was a good throw by Harburg. I mean, the pocket was closing in, and yet he was able to deliver an absolute bullet to Fedoni. And you saw that connection work well last year, and it's good to see it kind of carry over into the spring game, regardless of the quarterback room.
And the thing that I actually liked the most about that play was, Thomas Fedoni made one catch, one guy missed, touchdown, and he looked really. I mean, Matt Rule talked him up after the spring game. He's always been a freakish athlete when he's been healthy, and he really talked about his athleticism. He also talked about how teams have been trying to get Thomas into the transfer portal. But I've been really excited about him. If you've followed the show at all, I've been talking up Thomas Fedoni, and I just feel like that year removed after that injury, like my guy Wes Welker, back his second year back from that ACL tear, he was back to himself, and I feel like this season we're finally going to get the true Thomas Fedoni that we expected when he signed with Nebraska. Last season was good, but he was still kind of overcoming that injury, and this year I feel like he just feels much more confident, and that I thought that play was a nice omen for the future, just the way he was able to truck that defender and get into the end zone.
Speaking of slot receivers with the Welker reference, how about Ja'Cory Barney? I mean, he's absolutely electric.
Oh my goodness.
He is so fast. The throw on the touchdown pass from Harburg, like he was just leaping in the air. He is the real deal. Don't wait. Don't redshirt him. Let him play right now if he's ready to go and he learns the playbook and all that. Just based off of skill, let him play right now. Don't bother sitting him on the bench. He needs to be on the field. Like, my goodness. Matt Rule said during the broadcast that, Barney was a priority recruit, and he recruited Barney like his life depended on it, and we saw why on Saturday.
Yeah, man, he was insane, and he has been all throughout spring practice.
Yep.
And yeah, man, what an exciting player. And Davon Hall made some. I mean, he had a play where he was wide open. I think Heinrich missed him maybe, but
by just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but so that would have been a touchdown too. I mean, but yeah, Ja'Cory Barr, the kickoff return, would have scored a touchdown if he realized that Tristan Havano wasn't on his team. I mean, it is easy to get confused though because they were switching jerseys around. So I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think he'll have that problem in a regular season game. But
no,
yeah,
he was talking about returning a touchdown kick during the Colorado game, so he doesn't lack swagger either, and I love it.
And then, man, Jalen Lloyd, I love this kid. I mean, that 50 or whatever it was, 68-yard touchdown, and I don't remember how long it was, but man, I loved the long jump or the triple jump celebration that he had because he's a track star too. But oh my gosh, that guy is. I mean, you talk about exciting with Ja'Cory Barney and Jalen Lloyd, and then when you had Malachi Coleman back to the mix, I know he hasn't got talked about this spring because he hasn't been able to go full go, but. I mean, let's not forget this dude runs a sub 10.5 and is like 6'5". So, I mean, with Dylan Raiola, like I think there's a lot of
Nair
possibilities.
played well too.
Yeah, Nair played well. We didn't hear much from Banks, but I'm not too. That's the thing is with this team. Like this team reminds me of my Green Bay Packers from this last year, just because they had so many, from like 1 to 5. Like any one of those receivers could go off for 100 yards. So someday it was like. Bo Melton, who was like their sixth receiver, would have 100 yards, and like their number one guy would, not only have 1 or 2 receptions. So I do think there's going to be games where, Ja'Cory Barney goes off or Jalen Lloyd goes off or, a Nair goes off or Banks. And then there's going to be times where some of those other guys only have 1 or 2 receptions. And that's just going to be, I just think that's how it's going to be. But I don't think that's going to be a problem going forward. I think they're all going to eat. And I think I'm not trying to get I'm not trying to be stupid or get overhyped, but I think this could be the best pass offense Nebraska's ever seen. And I'm not.
It's hard not to be overhyped, and I know you like to drink the Kool-Aid, but I'm right there with you today. I mean, it's hard. It's really hard not to be excited about what we saw.
Yeah, it is. I've just never seen athletes. I've never seen Nebraska have this many athletes, a wide receiver and a quarterback like that. I mean, they've had Tommy Frazier and Eric Crouch and all those guys. I mean, they were great quarterbacks, but they were different types of quarterbacks. I mean, they were running quarterbacks. They could throw. I mean, don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. And Taylor Martinez was awesome too, but we've never had a pass first quarterback. And then has Nebraska ever had a first round quarterback taken? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And I'll tell you something else. Raiola makes it look easy. Like he does. It looks like the deep throws are absolutely effortless. And people were asking if he was more of a touch throw passer than anything else. But I just think that's the way he throws. I mean, I just think, his throwing motion, coaches need to study that and say, here's how you throw the football. Here's where you want to get to from not only his throwing motion, but his calmness in the pocket, his decision-making. And he's going back to work with Patrick Mahomes' trainer this summer. So, why not? And
it's the touch. You mentioned it. The touch. Yeah. I mean, he can rifle some ball. Like he threw that one I'm trying to remember who it was up the seam. It was to one of the tight ends, maybe
Borkature, I think it was.
Yeah. I mean, that was an absolute dart. I mean, but the thing about it is he has there was a lot of throws in that game that you don't see college quarterbacks make. That first touchdown pass that he threw, college quarterbacks miss that throw all the time because it looks easy from the TV.
Incredibly hard, yeah.
Yeah, because that guy is fairly open, but you have to drop it in over the player right there in a basket, and that's an NFL level throw. And so, I mean, I thought it was hilarious. I don't know if you saw, but the Hawkeye Chronicles or whatever that Twitter page, it was making fun of. Yeah. First of all, I had to write a post on it because it was so. I mean, come on, like Iowa fans should be the last people on earth that should talk about bad quarterback play. Like, are you kidding? Like, there's no way on God's green earth that you wouldn't trade your entire quarterback room for one season of Dylan Raiola because he's better than anything you've ever had in your life either. And I'm not, Nebraska's had terrible quarterback play. I'm not saying that, but don't get out of here with this. You're going to pick up the 5 worst plays, but ignore. There was 3 or 4 throws that Dylan Raiola made that I've literally never seen an Iowa quarterback make ever. And as far as
this
their
is why
current,
they post those things, because we're talking about it. I mean, mission achieved.
yeah, it's just it cracks me up. Like you guys would not trade, Cade McNamara for Dylan Raiola. I love how Cade McNamara last year was like, please continue saying how, I'm going to say crappy. He used a different word. How crappy our offense is going to be, because he thought they were going to be all good. And then he was like going off about, I'm more than a game manager. Completed 51% of his passes in 5 games, 3 touchdown passes. Like, you guys aren't very good. So
we should have never lost that game in November. Like, Deacon Hill was bad. Not that Purdy was, he struggled at the time as well, but
yeah.
Deacon Hill.
I mean, Deacon Hill did get better, though. I have to give him credit for that. And that's like, to me, Cade McNamara and Deacon Hill are basically the same player, So, I mean, it's, we'll see what happens, but I can't wait for November. I can't wait to see what Dylan Raiola does just against everybody. I can't wait for
November.
that.
I can't wait till August. What do you mean November?
Well, I can't wait for the Iowa game in November, but yeah, I'm excited for our August 31st. But
so I got to ask, Tristan Alvano missed a field goal Saturday.
Missed 2 field goals on Saturday.
Missed 2 field goals on Saturday. This isn't the first time we've seen him do that, obviously. Do you think it's worth looking into another kicker? Not as in give up on Alvano completely, but we've never had even before Alvano, our kicking game has been inconsistent. So do you think something needs to be done at the kicking position, or do you just let it ride and think, hey, it's a spring game?
I don't know. I guess it would have to be based on the coaches and what they've seen in the spring. I think I can't remember, but I feel like I've heard some whisperings that he's missed some kicks during spring, but that might be wrong. I'm not 100%, just message board stuff. But yeah, missing the 2, that surprised me. That was maybe the one prediction I got wrong. I said he wouldn't miss any kicks, and then he came out and missed 2 out of 3. Like, make me look bad, Tristan. No, I'm just kidding.
So next week you need to say that or this season you're going to say that he needs to miss all his kicks so that way he can make all of them.
But he did make the other one, which was a more difficult field goal than the 2 that he missed. So, I'm not sure. I don't think competition is ever a bad thing.
Right.
And when you have a good defense, I mean, you need to have a good kicker. And anytime, and that's the thing with the quarterback too, is like anytime that ball's inside the 30-yard line, it'd be nice to have, some automatic points. And unfortunately, that wasn't always the case last year. We had some misses last year too that proved kind of costly. I don't know though. I don't know how many kickers that are in the portal. I know Michigan just got one from Arkansas State because their guy in the spring game missed a couple too. And but Michigan doesn't have the quarterback that Nebraska has either, so I think they can't afford to miss any points this year with their defense. So I don't know. I'm conflicted on it. If they could get a veteran, then I would at least look into it. But I guess it would have to depend on the evaluation of the entire spring. Yeah. But if he has performed like he did on Saturday, then I would say, they need to at least look at another kicker.
Last year we relied on him so much for our only points in some games. This year, I don't think that'll be the case. So maybe that will help too. And I'm not saying that he needs to, not be the kicker anymore, or that, we need to, demote him or let him go or whatever. He's just struggling a little bit, and I want to see him get better. I'm still behind him, of course. I want to support him, but we saw that on Saturday. It made me wonder a little bit. It did make me wonder.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how things go. But yeah, that's definitely important part of the game. So they need to get that shored up. I think there was a lot of other good things. Vincent Shavers was out there with the starting group. I'm trying to think back on the defensive side. Rex Guthrie made a nice play. It was good to see get his name heard. I think that's probably it in terms of spring game takeaways. Just basically, we all know who the starting quarterback's going to be. So it'll be interesting to see when Matt Rule announces it. I don't expect that to come until fall camp, but you never know. I mean, he did.
It's going to be the worst kept secret, I think, at the end of the day.
He did say when we know that we would know. I mean, he's not going to mess around, but I feel like you at least have to go into fall camp to, affirm it, I guess. But give Dylan the QB1 reps into fall camp day one. Like, let's go.
Give Dylan the QB1 reps. Take the red shirt off Barney.
Yeah, Barney and Shavers are going to play a ton.
Which is
I
good.
think. Yeah. And so we'll see how many guys redshirt, but those two definitely aren't going to redshirt.
Grant Bricks, I saw. I was actually talking to somebody yesterday, and Grant Bricks I saw on TV. He looked good too. So
yeah, he did.
We're starting to see the returns on this freshman class and last year's freshman class pretty early, which is good.
It's impressive. And we didn't have. Speaking of draft weekend, we didn't have any Huskers drafted, which did surprise me a little bit. I thought Quentin Newsome or Omar Brown might get picked, but
maybe.
I do think this is going to be the last year for a long time that we're going to see a draft without a Nebraska player. So that's my only point on that.
When you look at this draft, though, it was very, very, very deep. Like even some of the undrafted free agents were really, really good. So we saw a lot of signees, though, in the undrafted free agent market. Let's see, Phelan Sanford, Quentin Newsome, Nordine Newelly. Let's see if I'm forgetting anybody.
Omar Brown went to the Broncos. Billy Kemp got a tryout with the Giants, didn't sign, but he got a camp invite. So they did get a lot of those, and it was a deep draft. Michigan even had some guys who could have came back for an extra year and went to the draft and didn't get picked. So it'd be nice, if they had something, even going back to the defensive end, Garrett Nelson. If you declare for the draft and you don't get drafted, like you should be able to go back to college. I think, I mean, they kind of do it in the NBA. It's like, why not? I mean, I know that would be kind of a crazy, but just give them the option. Like, hey, you can sign as a rookie free agent, or if you want to come back, like we'll let you come. I don't know. I just feel like that would be better for the athletes. But
because Nelson definitely could have used another year, in my opinion. But
but I mean, it is what it is, I guess. They made their choice, and you still get money being an undrafted free agent, and you still get depending on where you go, you still get the same opportunity. So,
and you can kind of choose when you're an undrafted free agent, right? Because my friend was an undrafted free agent, he had to choose. So,
like the Michigan had one guy that went to the Packers, which I think is the Packers generally keep like one or two rookie free agents, and he's an offensive lineman, so I think he's got a chance to make it. But I mean, I still think that Omar Brown, Quentin Newsome have a shot. Nordine, I mean, offensive line play is not good in the NFL, so I don't think Nordine Newelly, it's out of the realm of possibility that even making the practice squad. I mean, if you make the practice squad, you're making like six figures a year. So you just have to go to camp and, show that you're one of the best, 60 some players. Cause I think they can keep like 12 to 15 on the practice squad now. It used to be 8, but now it's expanded quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure. And, when you look at undrafted free agents, I mean, there's some that have really kind of made an impact over the years. I mean, you look at the Patriots, David Andrews, for example, Jacoby Myers, Jonathan Jones in the secondary. So the Patriots have done a good job with undrafted free agents as well. And that's just to say, just because you're an undrafted free agent doesn't mean you can't make an impact. And some of these undrafted free agents really have. So.
Yeah, man, I can remember Randall Gay back in the day starting the Super Bowl, undrafted free agent. So, yeah, there's scouts always say there's a bigger difference between first round picks and third round picks than there is between a fourth round pick and an undrafted free agent. Not all of them, but yeah, there's about 50 to 100 undrafted free agents that are basically like draft picks. So anyways, and then let's touch on before we wrap up here. It was a big recruiting weekend for the Huskers. They did also take 2 out of 3 from Iowa on the baseball diamond, despite the weather kind of throwing a wrench in things on Saturday. But yeah, TJ Lateef, Dawson Merritt, Michael Terry, Cortez Mills, all those guys seem to have really good visits. Michael Terry, the receiver, said that he loved it. Nebraska was near the top of his list. He's a 5-star athlete, I guess receiver. I'm not sure exactly what Nebraska is going to play him at. Dawson Merritt, Cortez Mills, it seemed like he was having a great time. And, he talked about how he thought he could play early at Nebraska. I think he can. I mean, he's like another Ja'Cory Barney type. I mean, man, if you had Cortez Mills and Ja'Cory Barney on the same team and Jalen Lloyd, like, my goodness, that would be insane.
Absolutely electric, yeah.
And he's the guy that Matt Rule, I don't know about Matt Rule, but the Nebraska staff, they think that he could be like a Devonta Smith. Like that's who they've compared him to, the guy who won the Heisman at Alabama. So get that guy here if we can. That's why I said this spring game would be a good chance to get him here. Is watch him with those receivers, and that might make him want to come.
That's not a bad comparison at all, and that's a comparison I'll absolutely take. And I mean, man, you look at the spring game and how excited the recruits were by it, and that says a lot.
Yeah, that it was the atmosphere was great too. I mean, the fans, even though I do think that the weather dampened the attendance down a little bit. There was still a lot of fan excitement, and just this team looks ready. They look ready for the second year leap. They look ready to achieve big things, and I think that these kids are going to want to be a part of that. And they've got the NIL rolling. So yeah, it's a great time to be a Nebraska Cornhusker, and the countdown has started to to week 1 of the season, that UTEP game, and when we start to see the Dylan Raiola experience start for real.
And also, really quickly, Dylan Alfred, the Ole Miss commit, was given an offer by Nebraska over on Saturday. He said Nebraska's in line for an official visit, so he committed to Ole Miss on April 9th. So there's that too. Alfred is a 4-star recruit, ranked 89 overall numerically in the 24/7 Sports rankings, the 17th overall player in the state of Alabama. So that's something to watch too. More wide receivers. So, I mean, things are cooking both on and off the field. And it's kind of weird. I'm not used to this, kind of positivity and positive momentum. I'm just kind of used to doom and gloom, but none to be had this weekend.
Yeah, none to be had. We'll see how things keep progressing.
How long it lasts.
Yeah, we'll see how long it lasts. I feel like we're gonna have a lot of good times over the next few seasons. I got to say that I haven't been this excited as a Nebraska fan in a long time. I can't say I've never been more excited because I was a fan during the golden era. So, but I just took it for granted back then. I just felt like whenever I woke up, Nebraska was going to be good. I never, the idea of Nebraska winning. I never experienced a season where Nebraska won fewer than 9 games for like the first 15 years of my fandom. So,
and I've never experienced a season where Nebraska's won more than 5. So there you go.
Yeah. So it's been crazy where we're at, but we got the right coach. We got the right quarterback. I think this defense is going to be damn good too. That's the thing, is everybody's talking about Dylan Raiola and these receivers and the offense and yada, yada, yada. But this defense, man, it's gonna be one of the best in the Big Ten. And I have no question in my mind about that. I mean, Nash, Ty, those guys barely played. Our defensive line is going to be good, and I feel really good about the defense. Hopefully, Bly Hill can play, though, because quarterback was a little bit of a concern already, and so that might be a position where if he does have an injury, they might have to try to look into the transfer portal this spring window.
Corner depth is extremely important, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're lurking in there right now, honestly, just because of the injury. And I think this is the year that fans are really going to see what Marcus Satterfield can do. This offense we saw on Saturday, I mean, he wanted to kind of run this type of offense last year and just couldn't. I've defended him. I defended him last year, saying that he doesn't have the personnel that he needed to succeed in his offensive scheme. This year, I think that's going to change, and now we're really going to get to see what he can do and kind of take the training wheels off a little bit and really see how his offensive schemes can move the ball down the field. Because one of my biggest takeaways on Saturday was that there's going to be a lot of deep ball schemes and things like that. I mean, we saw how he tried to do it with Harburg, and it just couldn't happen. But if Satterfield runs his offense the way he really wants to run it, I think we're going to have a wide open offense.
Well, I think there was two. Matt Rule, I thought, said something that was pretty telling, though. But he said, if you want to run the football, you have to be able to, force teams to respect the deep ball. And the thing with Nebraska last year is they wanted to run the ball and they had to run against an 8-9 man box, and they couldn't really make people pay. They had a few play action passes here or there, but the thing that's exciting about this too is Dylan Raiola is like, he can actually run whatever you want to run. He can actually run a play action pass where he turns his back to the defense and then bombs it. So I think there's a lot of exciting things that he can do. I mean, literally anything you want a quarterback to do, it's incredible. Just how advanced I've never seen a freshman like that advanced ever. I mean,
I was just going to say, I have never seen a more polished, more developed, more calm freshman quarterback than I've seen in Dylan Raiola. And I've been, watching film and, games for 10 years or so now, 15 years. And he just looks so ready for the moment, and he looks so developed and so polished, and he's cool as a cucumber in the pocket. So, I mean, it's just really, really interesting to see. He looks like he's a senior ready to go to the NFL. In terms of his maturity and his ability to read defenses and all that. So it's just really fascinating to watch. I mean, and you've said it before, he's ready for this moment. He definitely showed it on Saturday.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
And I know we spent this last half hour gushing about Raiola, but I mean we've really never seen anything like it.
No, and it's going to be the next 3 years are going to be fun. So
The next 3 years are going to be us gushing about Raiola, hopefully for 30 minutes. So.
And then the next 10 years will be us just reminiscing about how awesome Dylan Raiola was. But no, Daniel Kalen's going to be good too if we can keep him here. That's going to be
was good too.
Not going to be. Yeah, they did some good stuff.
I mean, he held his own too. So
yeah, he completed some balls, and then Keelan Smith, Ishmael Smith Flores caught some pass. That's the thing, like. Keelan Smith's like, oh, I'm just hanging out here like 12th on the wide receiver depth chart making plays. And he almost got him down the field to win the game at the end with like the 5th string quarterback. So I'm like, man, this receiver room is freaking loaded.
It's nasty. I mean, even the 12th string guys can make plays. And, just as fans, I want the fans to remember that if we lose a Kalen to the portal, or if we lose a player to the portal that's extremely talented, Nebraska can play that game too. So it's not just other teams take, we can also take. I mean, I think that's important to remember too, because fans get so caught up with the, losing a player, but we can play that game too. And with Troy Dannon, a big NIL guy, I don't see, too many issues, trying to get players to come here moving forward. So as much as we hate losing players to other teams and bigger checks coming to some of our recruits and teams inquiring, we can also play that game. So just remember that. I know it's hard in the moment, but
I guess on one note I wanted to mention before we wrap it up here, kind of on that note, Dylan Edwards did announce his commitment. It is to Kansas State. So the Dylan and Dylan dream is over. I said when he came out, he probably was going to Kansas State, but I was hoping the NIL money. No, he was committed to Notre Dame. And then it was like down to Kansas State, Notre Dame. He went to Notre Dame, and then he flipped it like as soon as Prime got the job. So,
well, we'll see how that turns out in Boulder. I'm excited for Colorado game, but I mean, I'm not going to talk about Prime too much, but I'm very interested to see how that turns out this year.
Yeah, I'm very interested in that too. The Colorado game and the Iowa game, and then win those two, and then beat everybody else, and then if we can. Ohio State and USC. I mean, if we can win every game but those two, which I think is very achievable, we'll be in the playoff. I mean, I'm not trying to be insane, but that's just what will happen. Because
10 wins with this schedule, especially the first 6 games or so, is very achievable, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean,
and if in this 12-team playoff, if you win 10 games in the Big Ten or the SEC, like 99% chance you're in the playoff. So I mean, that's just where it is right now. So
I would love to do a positive football game stream in January or December instead of doing
I just want to get to a bowl game. Yeah, just I want to just be at. I might even go if the Huskers make it to a bowl game. I might even go to it. We'll see, but I just want them back in a bowl game. I don't even care what it is.
It would be great if it was and I know we don't really want to be here, but the
Pinstripe
Bowl or the Fenway Wasabi Bowl.
That wouldn't be bad though. I mean, yeah, that wouldn't be horrible. That would
come meet me at Fenway. We could have some beers and watch
Nebraska. I've always wanted to go to Fenway, so I didn't think I'd be there for a football game, but I'd go. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, so hopefully. I mean, it's an okay venue. It was built in 1912. I mean, Fenway. So, people were not as big as they are in 1912, so the seats are tough. But at the same time, it is a fun place to go. It's historic, obviously, and let's see. Last year, this past December, it was Boston College and 25th ranked SMU, and Boston College pulled off the upset, so it was a fun game.
That was a fun game. And Boston College didn't have a bad season, so we'll see how they do under Bill O'Brien. They got my guy Reed Harris, caught a touchdown in the spring game. He's from Great Falls, Montana. Don't know if you knew that, but he's a pretty nice wide receiver. So, or I think tight end. Actually, they're going to be
a tight end. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a wide receiver and moved to a tight end. So,
and Jeff Hafley's now with your Packers, so we don't have to deal with Jeff Hafley anymore.
Well, he'll be fine as the DC, but yeah. Anyway, All right, guys. Well, better get rolling. But thanks for joining us for another episode. Please, like I said, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, get in the comments section, hit the like button, and check out our written stuff at huskerbigred.com. We'll be back for another episode later this week. So have a great one, and as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.